Hello, everyone, and my name is Bob Fopp. Welcome once again to the Outdated Entertainment Hour, where today we look back at the 30th anniversary of the classic family film, Babe. And to celebrate, we have a short interview at the beginning of the show with a famous film critic, Mr. Squeaks, lead film critic for the Porcine Picayune. Mr. Squeaks, how are you today? Thank you for being here, indeed. Now, looking back the past 30 years, how do you feel that the Babe film holds up amongst the classic animated or family films of all time? Subjects of some controversy. Do you believe that back in 1995 that Babe should have won the Academy Award for Best Picture? To sum up, how do you feel that Babe ranks amongst the greatest animated or shall we say, just one of the greatest films of all time? Oh, thank you, Mr. Squeaks. That was a riveting interview, just riveting. And now we present, featuring Adam Baritot and Bob Smith, the Outdated Entertainment Hour looking at Babe. No, not that kind of Babe. That'll be on the Beach Films edition in a few weeks. Philistine. Well, it's great to be back here at the Outdated Entertainment Hour. Hi, I'm Bob Smith. Welcome back. I'm also glad to welcome back Adam Baritot, the entertainment maven who you've enjoyed on 3 previous shows. And now we are going to look at Babe, the 1995 classic starring James Cromwell, one of the great family films of all time. But it's a lot deeper than that in our eyes. And we're going to take a good look. I feel it should have won Best Picture of the Year back then, but, the kids' film stigma. In any event, take a moment. You're going to hear from a certain outdated but still working great rock guitarist. And then we're going to get right back to things with Adam Baritot and a look at the absolute classic fantasy film, Babe. We'll be right back.
This is Joe Walsh. One thing I do when I'm not playing rock and roll is get on the air as an amateur radio operator. Also called ham radio, is a communication service provided by ordinary people just like you and me. We have a national emergency communication system in place 24/7, 365. Find out more about amateur radio at arrl.org/What is ham radio? See you on the air.
Folks, I believe in truth in advertising. And we have already recorded a wonderful podcast. It's one of the best things that Adam Baritot and I have ever done. Unfortunately, some fly got this soup and the tracks were bad. This is take 2 of the same look at one of the great fantasy films of all time, Babe. But first, let me introduce a wonderful human being who has the patience to come back and record the same show a second time on the same day. It's Adam Baritot. He's an entertainment maven, actor, director, you name it, he's done it. Thanks for being back.
It is my absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you, Bob.
No sweat. These things happen. I like to tell a story where I had a guest who was an elderly fellow who I use the studio standard microphone most of the time. It's called the Shure SM7B. Supposedly, it's the microphone that Michael Jackson used to record Thriller. I don't know what that means in terms of podcasting, but I do know that once I started using that powerful microphone, that everything sounded better. Everything sounded richer and clearer. Even the other track of who I was talking to sounded clearer and more succinct. So I've loved using it. but you have to tweak it all the time,
Mhm.
particularly when you switch from studio to studio. I have 2 different digital studios that I use. I'm not going to give anybody a plug here, but one of them is very bulky, and that's the one we're talking to now. And the reason we're talking in this studio is that Adam is such a mensch and such a trooper. He is doing this show, and he has no internet in Brooklyn, New York. It is out because we've had storms all day as we record this, right, Adam?
Correct. I've been told my internet will restore tomorrow morning.
Doesn't it feel funny in this day and age when you don't have internet? It's like, gosh, do I ever read a book? What am I going to do?
I did some chores. I did a little bit of reading. I did some writing on something I'm working on the side. I did what I could without the internet, but it's become one of those utilities that our lives kind of grind a bit to a halt if we don't have it.
Yeah.
Certainly wasn't like that in 1995, but currently it is.
Still in 1995. I think it went to movies that was still filmed back then. And
Yes.
30 years ago to this year, well, it's a 30-year anniversary of what Adam and I consider one of our favorite films of all time. Easily one of the great family fantasy films of all time. And it came out of the blue from the minds of George Miller and Chris Noonan. It's Babe, a movie that got nominated for several Academy Awards at the end of that year. It's made a profound impact on both Adam and myself in that for a so-called family film, it's a lot deeper than that.
I couldn't agree more. What seems on the surface, and you'll hear this from folks who are watching it or don't know a lot about it, they'll say, oh, it's the talking pig film. Yeah, there's a talking pig in the film, but that's not really what the film's about. It tackles much larger topics. It tackles so many things we're going to cover during our discussion today, and it does so gently that you barely realize that you're learning about how different species and different people interact. It's just a beautiful story.
It really is. It's surprisingly deep, surprisingly varied. There's a surprising amount of subtle social commentary that if you don't think about it, you won't realize you just saw social commentary. It's very moving in every conceivable way. I mean, there's loss, there's birth, there's all kinds of things. There's drama, there's crime, there's the county fair, there's the beautiful Australian countryside, you name it, it's in this film. I knew something different was going on when I sat in my seat and the opening credits came on and I heard beautiful classical music. I heard these words.
Yes, go for it.
This is the tale of an unprejudiced heart and how it changed our valley forever. That is not your typical children's first line.
It certainly is not. That is promising something that will enrich your soul. And out of the mouth of Roscoe Lee Brown, that renowned and beautiful actor who was doing, he was a guest on every show in the 80s. We saw him in everything. The last cartoon he did before this was Oliver and Company. I looked it up. And just this magnificent, resonant voice, warming, nurturing. What people would rely on for Morgan Freeman now, we were relying on Roscoe Lee Brown for then. Just great narrative. And the score. The score is an interesting thing because I did do a deep dive on my research for this film to find all the neat little nooks and crannies. Originally, the score was written by this multi-Academy Award-winning composer, Jerry Goldsmith. Many of you out there have probably heard of Jerry Goldsmith before. His name is somewhat renowned. But when they produced the film and they added Jerry Goldsmith's score, they found it was too dark and too somber and too heavy. They, of course, thank you, Mr. Goldsmith, for your time. And they went and looked for another composer, and they found someone with a much shorter, much briefer resume, one Nigel Westlake, who provided a score of great lightness, great hope, whose ambiance fit the story of a talking pig a bit better, and certainly this so-called children's story a bit better.
The closing scene, which I'm not going to talk about now, but the music of the closing scene, if you remember it, was the recurring theme, the theme of the film throughout, right? Mm-hmm. It's a triumphant scene, but the music slows down and softens to end the film. Oh my gosh. If you weren't moved by the ending of this film, your heart is made of granite. Am I right?
Mhm. Absolutely. We will get to that. We'll talk a bit about the nuance of the end of that film a bit later. But we should probably go a little bit in story order. Maybe.
Yeah. No, I don't want to jump around too much. But first of all, before we do that, though, props to James Cromwell, your lead, who played Farmer Hoggett
yeah.
and became an in-demand star at a very unlikely age in his life. Just had, what did you say, 15 lines in the film total?
171 words.
Yeah.
And some other 60 words that were sung. Arguably one of his smallest speaking roles, even though he was on camera the entire time. But still, this was his role for which he was nominated for an Academy Award. It's the only Academy Award nomination he has. And I did look this up. He did pay for his own Academy Award marketing for this.
Wow.
He did. He spent $50,000 of his own money to try and market himself. And he got the nomination. And certainly that has benefited him. And I'm happy for that. I'm happy to have gotten to see him in dozens and dozens of other roles. But this was my gateway into James Cromwell. Some actors you think about the gateway in. You think about your gateway to Tim Curry, which is distinct for everybody. This was my gateway into James Cromwell.
Well, the sign of a good character actor is who he plays well, and he was Stretch Cunningham on the original All in the Family series.
Oh my goodness, that's right.
And he was totally believable. You thought that's who he was until you see him as Farmer Hoggett, if you hadn't seen him in the interim.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just a brilliant actor, a kind soul, a wonderful guy from everything I'm picking up on, and a vegetarian who turned vegan after starring in this film, according to Adam here.
Vegetarian wasn't enough. He had to go the extra step after working with all these animals. Almost 1,000 of them on the set of this particular film. And you had some 45 to 50 animal wranglers at any given time as well. Just a small army of animalia to complete this film.
You know, we didn't talk about this during the first time we recorded our show here, but I do recall reading that Babe himself, the small little pig, was actually a whole mess of pigs, because pigs grow quickly and it takes a long time to make a major motion picture. And yet you'd never know it from watching the film. He looks like the same little porker throughout, from the first scene to the triumphant ending.
We can give credit to the amazing work with this early CGI. CGI was really coming to its own at this point. We'll talk more about that later. But also the remarkable work of Jim Henson's Creature Shop and all of their wonderful models and animatronics they used. I did track down the number. They used, the conservative number I found was 48 different piglets to play Babe. They changed out one piglet every 3 days because they were just growing so quickly. They wanted to keep this small, diminutive creature, but piglets do grow and at rather rapid rate at that age. So
because they eat all day long. Yes, they do.
Yeah,
Which made there's a scene in the midst of the film where Mrs. Hoggett, played by the Polish star Magda Szubanski, she's feeding him and he's not growing. And she's like, "Oh, my dear, they wanted him for Christmas dinner." Of course, now I have to backtrack and show you how Babe became the Hoggetts. The Hoggetts won Babe in a Guess the Way to the Pig contest at the carnival or the fair or whatever you call it. And don't keep pigs, classic line. And he just walks away throwing the changes in the bucket and ends up getting a phone call and saying he won the pig. And Farmer Hoggett's reaction was, "Oh,
fine."
but for some reason it was a really deep, "Oh," it was like, now what do I do? There's a lot of, what a movie. Humor, pathos, action, drama, you name it. And it's all digestible for audiences of all ages, but it doesn't feel like it's geared toward children. I don't know if that makes any sense. Adam, does that make any sense?
That makes perfect sense to me. This is a story not for one age, but for all ages. It's not just driven towards children, although whenever we're dealing with a general admission film, we do see that a bit. We see that people relegate it to just for children rather than thinking a group of adults could go and see it. I certainly saw it as an adult for the first time, a fresh adult. I was 18 years old when it came out in the theaters. That you got me thinking about that moment where he has that reaction of, huh, now my life includes a pig.
Don't keep pig.
I've seen this with some people when their life significantly changes, not in a bad way, but in a significant way, and they just have to make mental space for it. There's an old picture of my father shortly after I was born. I must be like 2-3 weeks old in this picture, and he's just holding me on his lap, and you can see the look on his face, sideburns, of course, because it's the 70s, and he just has this look on his face of, huh, oh, this is my future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I get that out of Farmer Hoggett in that moment. I really love that. I love that moment so much.
Well, the first time we recorded this, I started with my family's reaction to this film. We had seen it in the theater when it was a brand new film after seeing television ads for it. And my wife says, well, that looks interesting. We go see this. I said, sure. Not my cup of tea, but we'll go. And we sit down, and like from that first moment, the theme comes up. Little animations are on the screen, and I'm prejudiced heart hooked. The lights come up after the screening, and I go to my wife, did you like it? And she goes, like it, as her eyes were filled with tears, and she's like, it's the greatest movie I've ever seen. So not only did we see it then, we saw it a couple weeks later, about 4 months later, because it was still in the B houses. We bought it on VHS. We bought it on DVD, and we have a digital streaming copy of it. Easily one of our favorite films here, and it stands up to repeated viewings. And if you haven't seen it for a while, it doesn't matter if you watch it for the 40th time. You will be absolutely delighted with this movie.
Absolutely. At a time when some things, we look back on some of the art and films and books from the 90s and consider them not aging well, Babe stands the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
It is valid and important and beautiful today, just as much today as it was then. Even more so, I find that the CGI I've seen since then has seemed less realistic than in the movie Babe. There was this perfect match of animatronics and lighting and good judicious use of CGI that made things seem very real and very believable. I could believe that dog was talking, that pig was talking. I didn't have that uncanny valley sensation that I sometimes get with a contemporary movie with all of the CGI. It can take you out of the picture because it doesn't feel real. It's like a cartoon interacting with real life, where this felt like real animals that have given to speech interacting. Credit has to be given to the remarkable work of the Jim Henson Creature Shop and the CGI team that worked on this. Just magnificent work that they did together to craft this.
You leave the theater forgetting that animals can't talk. It was so well done that it's like beyond anything I've seen before or since when it comes to that type of, you see commercials with the talking yak or something, or Buffalo Wild Wings with talk. Nothing comes close. I have never seen anything done as realistically. This is probably why the film took so long to make, is because they were really, really serious about making the talking animals look like they're talking. I mean,
Absolutely.
A horse, 3 singing mice.
Oh,
the
yes.
The little Greek chorus in the film. Yes, the three little singing mice who were your Greek chorus, leading you from chapter to chapter as if you're reading a book. Oh boy. The more I think about this movie, the better it is in my mind.
The producer, notoriously so, in spite of things you've heard between him and the director that happened afterward, but George Miller, the producer, notoriously waited 10 years for the visual effects to get to the point where he felt he could make this film. He wanted it to look right, and he was willing to wait a decade in order to do it. So credit to be given there for the patience in order to make this film.
Amazing. And there's a lot of other amazing things about this movie, including little life lessons mixed in that don't feel like them when you're watching them. But then when you think back at them, you go, oh my gosh, because this film touches on the struggles between classes.
Yes, very much so.
The struggles of, commercialism encroaching on a simple life. The encroachment of technology, right? Yeah. animal rights, peace and war, just getting along, just the ability to get along as a species. There's wolves in the film. There are barking dogs that are attack dogs that try to corral the sheep and steal them. There's a sheep stealing bunch of bad guys in the movie, which is a thorn in the side of Farmer Hoggett and everybody else in the valley. The fact is, there's so many wry little moments that make you think, yeah, that's right. That's how life should be. This is how we should be acting toward each other. I know I'm watching a pig talk to a sheep, but this is how we ought to be communicating with each other. And it hits you really hard at times when you don't think it's going to.
Absolutely. What stood out for me, because I watched it again in order so that we could have this conversation. And I will tell you, I had a similar reaction watching it now than I did 30 years ago, but for different reasons. What stood out to me on this watching, because of the age I am now, was the interactions with children characters and so-called adult characters. When the dog Fly, the mother dog, when she has her puppies, you see this moment where her puppies are given away. And you know darn well she doesn't want her children given away from her. And there's this scene where you see her and she's dejected and she's lying. And Babe comes up to her. And I'm going to paraphrase here because I don't remember exactly what he says. But is it okay if I call you Ma?
That's exactly the line. And there's not a dry in the house. There's a lot of serious. The beginning of the film shows Babe in a meatpacking plant. He's been brought to him to be sausage, and his mom gets taken away, and he cries goodbye, Mom, from where he's sitting. And the first 15 minutes of the film are Babe in anguish. He's a little boy pig without his mom. At one point, he cries, "I want my mom."
Yeah.
And it showed how you handle that. Here comes all of Fly's puppies to kiss him all over and go, "It's all going to be all right. You have to be a brave little pig." And she talks him off the ledge. And in the end, he's giggling when all the puppies are licking his face. Kindness, overwhelming kindness when people really need it.
Yeah.
Never goes out of style, folks.
Always valid, always important. Something we need today and every day.
Yeah. And it's so sweet. It's just so sweet. There's a lot of moments of sweetness. There's moments of action and danger. Some of it's a little bit intense for a G-rated film, I thought, but they straddle that line. They walk that tightrope. The bit where Ma the sheep gets killed by the marauding dogs and thieves, and Babe is accidentally tarred with the murder. But then Farmer Hoggett finds out that, he didn't do it and obviously doesn't put Babe down. He's going to put Babe down. That's a moment of real drama. He's pointing a gun at the star of the film. And I can imagine kids that watch that were going, "Oh, no, please don't let that happen." And it didn't, thankfully. So George Miller knows how to bring you to the edge of the cliff but not throw you off.
Exactly. It was almost a Bambi's mom moment. My gosh.
Yeah.
Still a G film. We can talk about significant themes. We can talk about scary things in a children's movie, or at least we used to. We can harken back to the fantasy movies of the 1980s, where directors would kill off characters and approach with darker themes. And this goes all the way back to the Brothers Grimm and the morals of the German fairy tales. And then her legs were cut off because she danced to death. These are things that were expected of children's stories in order to teach morals. We've kind of gotten away from that over the past 30 years, but it's just, it leans into the larger tradition of storytelling about morals and about how we grow and about how we thrive against the sorrows and adversities that enter our lives.
Right. Now, this entire film is based off a children's book by Dick King Smith called Babe the Gallant Pig. And let's talk about why he's gallant, because he is a little porker who was picked up out of a little bucket by Farmer Hoggett, and they regarded each other and they felt a faint I don't know, future among each other. There's a line in the film that I don't remember. You see them staring at each other like we're on the same wavelength somehow, me and this little pig. And Farmer Hoggett sees this and later makes a sheep pig out of him. Not a sheep dog, but a sheep pig. And little Babe, first they're all laughing at little Babe for even attempting to move the sheep around, but they find out how nice he is and go, what a nice little pig. And the sheep suddenly start obeying his commands. You'll say something like, if you guys move into that pen over there, I'd be very much obliged. Well, what a nice little pig. And they go, and meanwhile, Hoggett is literally scratching his head going, my God, I'm right about this. So little Babe gets entered into the sheepdog trials for the best sheepdog in the county, or whatever it was. And all I know is he got the big award, and there's not a dry eye in the house. At the end of the film, I know I'm jumping around, but the farmer who said very little looks at the pig and goes, that'll do, pig, that'll do. And somehow they got the pig to look proud, right? The pig is actually looks beaming. How do they do this? I have no earthly idea. It is a beautiful film. It's like a life-affirming. I can't talk.
That's okay.
It's something we need right now. It's 30 years later, and this film needs to be seen by everybody right now. It's about being brought together, not torn apart.
Exactly. And it's the way that we get there at the end. the Fly's husband, her mate in the story. Rex is his name. Voiced by the magnificent Hugo Weaving. God love Hugo Weaving. Hasn't he had a career since this?
No kidding.
Yeah. So he's playing this dog, and he's deaf, I believe, or he's going deaf. So he's not the sheepdog that he once was. And he has to go because Babe is in the middle of this, is going to be going to the sheepdog trial with sheep he's never met before. So he doesn't know how to talk to them. And so this dog, who's gotten his way as a sheepdog by yelling and biting, has to find these sheep and communicate and go, okay, it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about this pig. Is there some way these sheep will follow him? What can this pig say or do to help them follow him? And he has to swallow his pride and be this kind of hero by sacrificing something of his pride to do so, by reaching out to creatures that he might have thought were stupid. In fact, that's how they frame it. They frame it, everybody in their place. That's a phrase that has not aged well at all. But they were telling us that then. This sheep must obey dogs, but if you only talk to one another, you'll find you both get what you want and what you need with a minimum amount of barking and biting.
Yeah.
So,
there's a scene earlier on too where the Babe is learning what's a sheep and what is this. Well, Fly says, who is the wife dog, goes, sheep are very stupid. So it showed prejudices. And by the end of the film, those animals are learning to communicate. Why? Because of Babe's unprejudiced heart. That's why.
He asked why. Why are they like that? Well, because it's always been that way. That's not a reason. Why?
Yeah.
He brought introspection to animals who had just done it that way all this time. It can be a dangerous thought process, or not dangerous, but it can be a rut for us to say, well, it's always been done that way. We have to do it that way. He changes the world with his actions.
At one point, a horse in the movie says the way things are the way things are. In other words, we have all been raised to accept that this is that. It's black and white and it shall never change. Babe, with his unprejudiced heart, proved things can be changed in this subtle, sweet little manner of this film. I mean, there's action.
It's a children's movie, man.
It's a children's movie. You could take your kids to see it or watch it on television, but there's a lot in this. Like, there's little satires about commercialism. The dollhouse, yeah. I mean, where
broke my heart.
Barbara Hoggett, early in the film, it shows what appears to be the interior of a beautiful house. It's not. It's Farmer Hoggett's beautiful interior of this amazingly detailed dollhouse. And it's meant to be a Christmas present for his granddaughter, who cries and screams. That's not the one I saw on television. And the look on Farmer Hoggett's face, 1 second, is absolutely priceless.
It breaks my heart because I was that kid. There was a toy I wanted when I was about 5 years old, and it was Christmas, and I got a toy that was similar. It was different, but not the same. And I made that same kind of, it's not the one that was on television noise. And I could just see the look on my father, the breaking of his heart. And I carried that with me, not realizing what I had done at 5 years old, but as an adult going, oh man, I was a shit of a kid.
Television is very damaging because it becomes, for parents who plop their kids down in front of a TV at the age of 3 and just that's the pacifier. It is their education, and it's telling you, kids, you want this. And in the 60s and 70s, toy commercials were very insidious. You got to go out and get this and be as cool as the other kids. This is the one you want. So they say that to the little children who listen to what they've seen. And then when they can't get the exact thing, they feel slighted, not knowing about commerce and the fact that things are sold out and what have you, which, years later, the Beanie Baby and the Elmo phenomenon and all that other stuff, where kids were disappointed in not being able to get their favorite Christmas toy. That's the danger of commercialism. It's actually kind of damaging, isn't it?
Absolutely. I wish I could tell my father, who's been gone 7-8 years now, but I wish I could just say to him, I'm so sorry, Dad, I didn't know.
Yeah.
If I were a kid getting a handmade dollhouse of that quality, I would be over the moon. This is gorgeous. I don't even feel like I can play with it. I have to set it on a shelf and rub it with a diaper. It would be just the most glorious gift and labor of love. How many hours did he spend building this thing to make it so perfect for his granddaughter? How many hours? That labor of love.
And we see the encroachment of technology in the Hoggets were simple farmers, and here comes his son, I believe, and wife, I don't know if it was the son or the daughter. They show up for Thanksgiving and Christmas, whatever. They bring a fax machine. Merry Christmas, and they're like, "What is it?" Of course, fax machines were a big deal in 1995. Still, we could talk to each other without being in the same room, and you could send things to each other. And Mrs. Hoggett goes, could you use it? Like, she has no earthly idea that it could be helpful, that you could hook it up to a telephone system. But again, it's about change. It's about change can be good, and change can take away the charm of simple living sometimes. I think that was the message there.
Perhaps. Certainly, knowing in retrospect that the internet was already there by the time this movie was released, and that an email within 2 or 3 years would replace just about anything a fax could do. Just about anything. There's a kind of obsolescence to that random funny gift, that commercialism of, oh, I must have the latest gadget. But the latest gadget is only the latest gadget for a blink of an eye. It's fine. They found a use for it. It's not something they kept, I'm sure. They probably sat on their shelf and didn't get used again, possibly ever. Like the way some of these technological devices are like.
The film's so multifaceted. There's so much to talk about. The cinematography is spectacular. The rural countryside of Australia that you get to see, and all the animals and the puppies and just all of it. The county fair is beautiful in its own old school way. I mean, everything. It looks idyllic. It's an idyllic looking place that the Hoggets live in. When you see this movie, you would love to become an Australian sheep farmer. And he wasn't killing the sheep. He was just shearing the sheep. He was just selling their pelts, as obviously the way he made living. And the music contract as it swirls throughout the background to virtually the entire movie. Oh my gosh, what a wonderful job. Another nomination, I believe. Just spectacular.
Their Oscar win was for visual effects. Not the cinematography, although cinematography greatly deserved it, and it wasn't even nominated, but the specific visual effects that were so the marriage of those animatronics and the models and the CGI it's never been done as well. It's never been done as well, so that a joke told by a duck feels like a comedian leaning in and telling you a story.
But there's Ferdinand and the little adventures he gets into, because he has anointed himself the rooster, even though he's a duck. And the Hoggets go out and get a alarm clock, a wind-up alarm clock, and the duck takes umbrage and says, we have to do something about this. And he leads Babe in an attempt to get rid of the electronic rooster as the, or mechanical rooster, excuse me, that Ferdinand calls it. Ferdinand is like a Borscht Belt comic in his delivery. I forget who the voice of Ferdinand was, but he's very funny and
skip my brain. Yeah,
it's a great character. It's one of the funniest characters in the film. And he interspersed throughout there. There's a Greek chorus of other animals, other people, other animals that look into the house to watch them all watching TV and stuff like that. Again, it's like a fairy tale with realistic talking animals.
It's a genre that still does it for me. It's this idea of magical reality. I'm a great fan of it. I was already on board with it just because of some of the fantasy films of the 1980s. This just swam right into my wheelhouse. And since then, some of the magnificent films that come out of Spain also follow this idea of magical realism. The world is real, but there's magic that occurs in our real world. And Babe really gives that to you in spades. It's so sumptuous in the way that it draws us in and just takes the tack of animals are people too.
Yeah.
It's noteworthy that the sales of pork in the United States dropped 20% after this movie came out in the theater.
Vegetarianism went up too. That's a stone cold documented fact that people tried to become vegetarians after seeing this film. And do you remember, supposedly there was another duck on the farm and it ended up being Christmas dinner, I think.
Christmas dinner. Yes.
Christmas is carnage. And they showed this duck who's on the center plate just being ripped apart by the son of Farmer Hoggett. And Ferdinand she was such a beautiful soul. Oh, I loved her and all this other stuff. And then he runs away screaming, Christmas is carnage. If that wasn't the moment when people decided to become vegan or vegetarian, I don't know what it was. Because it looked lurid. They luridly showed a close-up of this poor cooked duck being disseminated for the family. And I'm like, that's the one. I know all about the pork thing, but I think that was the scene that really brought home, is this meat stuff really such a good idea?
Well, I started making wiser meat choices as I got older and could afford them. So generally when I'm buying meat now, partly because of the influence of this film, I'm buying organic meat, which means it was raised on a farm. Whatever animal I'm eating had a name and lived a long, full life. And this was done toward the end of the animal's life, which is as humane as we can probably do. And just dietetically, I can't really get away with not eating meat because I really need a lot of B6 and B12 in my system for personal reasons. But there are more humane ways of doing it. We omnivores can do this in a humane way, I think.
I'm just a weak human being who has tried to go vegetarian. I've never tried vegan, but I tried vegetarian several times, and it lasts several months. And I end up losing weight, and I'm looking really good. And then I go to a barbecue or a party, and I take some finger food, and the next thing you know, boom, I'm back.
Yes.
It was about 10 years or so ago when NBC showed this either on Thanksgiving or Christmas Day. They showed Babe. And I'm thinking, this is great. It's going to be an annual event, like It's a Wonderful Life or whatnot. Well, they only did it once. How is this film not an annual holiday tradition on television? I don't understand. We still have March of the Wooden Soldiers, for God's sake.
I've given this some thought since the first time we've done this episode. And it is possible that because there is a touch of a let's make gifts for each other moment in here, and poor Farmer Hoggett feeling bad about his daughter, this is not the one that I wanted. There might be a slightly don't buy as many gifts message in this film that perhaps your advertisers are not as keen on. There might be something of that to this film where they're like, yeah, Christmas movie, but it's not going to sell us any more Transformers or GoBots. So let's put something else on. Let's get SpongeBob. SpongeBob is lovely. And SpongeBob is lovely. We love SpongeBob. But there are SpongeBob toys. There are very few Babe toys.
There were toys in the beginning. I showed a small Babe on Facebook. That was from a fast food restaurant. I don't remember which one. There was a tie-in, merchandising tie-in when the film came out, and that was given to you free with an order of fries or something like that. It really doesn't look like Babe, but it's got the Babe logo on it and all that, and
Gotcha.
it is what it was. And I did see some Babe toys around at the time, not a lot. Needs to be shown more to today's world. And today's world, I think this film needs to be seen as much as it ever has needed to be seen because of the peaceful, unprejudiced part of that little pig. I just wish more kids had access to this one. And again, it's got this. The film has a rough edge to it, but it doesn't go over the top. You can say that more about the Babe 2, Pig in the City, which has a much harder edge than the first film did. And it's not quite the classic that the first one is. It's not bad, but it's not Babe.
It's a second story.
Yeah.
And what you'd expect with that, not all of them can be Empire. What I take away from it, because it was just such a magical film, it left such an impression. It was probably another decade before I saw another film ostensibly for children that had that much power. And that was WALL-E. But that was relegated to a similar state where they came out with a couple of toys and then it got sequestered and you never really see it. Maybe you can find it on Disney Plus, but now you have to subscribe to it and dig through in order to find this film. It doesn't have the same. It's like these wonderful, powerful messages kind of get brushed away as if, oh, that was great. That was great. And then we don't look at them again. Yeah. I don't know why that is. I don't either.
However, I thought there was going to be, and I thought I read somewhere, I thought there was even a website stating that there were to be a 30th anniversary re-release of Babe, maybe as like a midnight movie type of thing. I'm not even sure. And that disappeared. I can't find anything like that online now. But I have just learned, for you people with DVD and Blu-ray, there's a great reissue label of classic films called Kino Lorber Films. And on December 16th will be a re-release of both Babe and Babe Pig in the City on Blu-ray and 4K Blu-ray. So those who've invested in like high-end Sony and LG sets, the top-of-the-line sets, will see this movie in 4K, which is a wonderful thing to see anything in. Check it out on these DVD releases from Kino Lorber. They'll be available on Amazon and everywhere else DVDs are sold. So there you go.
Brilliant.
Now, here's the big question for you, Adam. Okay.
Sure.
I consider this to be one of the top 5 films I've ever seen. Do you agree?
Yes. I consider it. My top 5 is more like a top 50, but it's certainly in there.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of different things. So much to recommend with this film. So influential was it at the age I was when I saw it. I was an 18-year-old, barely a man, sort of still really a boy, let's be honest here, watching that with my brother and sister in a theater, and the tremendous influence it had over me, influencing how I relate to people I disagree with, influencing how I relate to animals. I was always an animal lover, but this kind of, kicked it up a little bit of a notch. How I handle problems is different because I saw this film. And not always am I in my best form, but I always think back on the messages of this film, and it does inform who I am now, which is brilliant. As a piece of art, yes, you can talk about Cromwell's performance and, of course, Hugo Weaving and Miriam Margolyes. Break my heart. Miriam
the
Margolyes.
voice actors, are awesome in this movie.
Right. And, of course, Christine Cavanaugh as Babe, rest her soul. Christine Cavanaugh, who didn't end up doing the second one. I think that was Elizabeth Daly. But such a strong cast around the way. It is one of those rare pieces of art, and I'll call it that, a piece of art, that elevates the medium from which it sprang. This is a film that goes beyond what a film normally does.
No one loves animals more than my wife does. As she was a little girl, her father taught her to love animals, and now she loves animals in the same deep-seated way. And when I saw how she reacted to this movie, it makes it my favorite movie too, because it's like it's hers because it's everything she wants animals to be or thinks about in her mind in terms of the human-animal relationship brought out. Who is kinder to this little pig than Farmer Hoggett? I mean, in the end run. As someone who loves animals the way she did, she was absolutely stunned by the film when she saw it for the first time. And ergo, we kept going back to the theaters to see it again and again.
Mm-hmm.
It is just about a perfect film. There's one little scene you and I talked before. I'm not going to repeat it now. It's just one flash of a scene that I thought was unrealistic. The rest of it, I think, is absolutely superb. Even the lesser I don't want to say lesser, but the smaller role actors, like the judge who is at the sheepdog trials questioning whether this pig can even take part. Brilliant performance, and finally he gives in and gives the thing a 10, and the crowd cheers wildly. And the finish, how many people walk around saying, "That'll do, pig"? I mean, to this day, to just say, "Hey, is this good over here? That'll do, pig." People just say that. And that's the legacy of the film. It sticks in your head, and it never leaves you. Yeah. And it's never left my head since 1995. Babe, distributed by Universal Pictures originally. What a surprise. In a world full of, I don't know, Lego films or what have you, this is genuine art and a classic movie. Folks, there's nobody like him. He's Adam Baritot. Thanks for being back here, my friend.
Always my pleasure, Bob. Thank you.
Attention, Gen Xers. If you'd like to explore the era that appeals to you, look no further than GenerationXWire.com. The generation who grew up with the elite in entertainment, music, movies, TV, books, pro wrestling, and more finally has a one-stop destination for all their Gen X needs. From Aerosmith to Batman to the Killer Bees to the Twilight Zone, there's something for everybody at GenerationXWire.com. You won't find a more eclectic mix of pop culture content than at the leading website that specializes in the greatest generation, GenerationXWire.com. Check it out today. Well, that puts another one in the books. Thank you, Adam Baritot. Always a pleasure. Haven't seen him in a while. I'm hopefully getting close to the end of my health problem, which would be really nice. Because if this happens, I have a couple of things to announce. Number one, we're going to try to get the Entertainment Hour back on a bi-weekly basis. That would be really great if we can do that. Number two, I'm going to start an offshoot of this company meant for other podcasters. I hear nothing but, and I've worked on it really hard, how much people like the sound of the show. And if you've wanted to start a podcast, but you don't want to go through all the rigmarole, there's an old school word for you. If you don't want to go through the rigmarole of putting it all together, I'll do it for you. How's that sound? Using the same equipment that I use here, my electronic studios. All you need to do is get a microphone and talk into it. I will do the rest. I will get you onto all the podcast apps, and you can take it from there. So imagine being able to do a podcast just by showing up. That's my goal for new podcasters. Bob Smith's podcast moves into the production end of things. There will be more news about this as soon as I get things rolling on that. I really want to do it. I love the editing. I love the production. I want to make your podcast sound as major league as it can. There's something coming up in the future. And we have more outdated entertainment hours coming up in the future, and we hope you join us for each and every one of them. And I hope you enjoyed this one today about Babe. Write to us, outdatedent at gmail.com. Our website, outdatedentertainment.buzzsprout.com, or just type in on any browser, Bob Smith, Outdated Entertainment Pop. There it is. You get all the information. Listen to all of our old shows free of charge. No sweat. Find me on Facebook. I'm the only Bob Smith that sings with B.B. King. And by the way, thank you all for the incredible birthday wishes you gave me this year. I mean, literally hundreds of them. A lot of hundreds. I've never experienced that before. Something must be working. It was from old friends, school friends, current coworkers. Just go down the list. People who just listen to the show, relatives. But it all added up to the most birthday wishes I've ever gotten in 1 year. At my age, that feels really good. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. But anyway, I'm on Facebook. The only Bob Smith singing with B.B. King, if you want to find me there. Also, outdated_Bob. We're everywhere else. We're on Twitter or X or whatever they call it. We're on Threads. We're on Blue Sky. All under outdated_Bob, I believe. Most of them. Just try Bob Smith. It'll come up eventually amongst the other 10,000 Bob Smiths. That's why I kind of like Facebook the best. It's just easier to navigate. And we do most of our advertising on Facebook. most of our announcements. So that's it for now. We're going to have a new show as soon as possible. I don't have a set date for you yet, but I'm hoping it'll be just 2-3 weeks from now. In the meantime, this is Bob Smith. Thank you for joining us again. Thanks for making my mini podcast empire so successful, and we'll be back very, very soon with more old school entertainment, if you can deal with that. See you next time, and until then, in the words of Ringo Starr, a man wise way back in the 60s, peace and love, brothers and sisters. Peace and love.